If you're a network engineer or you're interested in becoming a network engineer, then today's TCP Handshakes chat is just for you. Hey everybody, what's good? What's going on? JB here with another CyberInsight video. Welcome back to the channel and thanks for making it your new spot for cyber and network knowledge. In today's chat, I'm really excited to have a good friend of mine from Twitter, Deirra Footman. Some of you might know her as CCIE by 30. We're going to be talking a bit about how she got into network engineering, some of her favorite technologies or not favorite technologies to work with, and we also are going to answer some questions from some folks from Twitter. I hope you like the chat, and if you do, please hit that like and subscribe button. All right, let's get chatting with Deirra. Deirra, I'm really excited to have you on the TCP Handshakes chat. We've kind of been
great name, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I wish I could take complete credit for that, but it actually was somebody on Twitter came up with that and said I could use it. So I was like, all right. It was a cyber gift, if you will, I guess. So
nice.
So we've been doing it for probably, I want to say you are the fourth guest, I think, that I've had on. Wait, let me think back. No, fifth guest. So the whole point is just to get some cool people that I've met on Twitter and, you know, talk about the things that we like or don't like about cybersecurity or IT and all that jazz. And hopefully there's a few nuggets that come out of this that are, you know, useful to other people that either are trying to get into the industry or have been in but are looking for answers for specific types of things. So
Yep.
You want to kind of give a little bit of a background about yourself to everybody, and then we can kind of just go from there.
Sure. So hi, everyone. I'm Deirra Footman. I've been in the networking industry for 10 years now. Got my start in high school. I attended the Cisco Networking Academy in Baltimore City. So that was a 3-year program that started in my sophomore year. So the sophomore year was all A+ material. So, you know, what is a computer, building a computer, that was our final project, which was really cool. And then junior and senior year focused on networking and some intro into information security. My last semester in senior year, we all applied to do internships at various organizations around the city. We had to put a resume together, write a cover letter, the whole process. Go in and interview. So I now know the agencies had already picked who they wanted, but just for us to get, you know, the experience,
Sure,
we went through the interview process. So I got selected by the school headquarters in their IT department. So every day until from March to June, every day I went to the headquarters building in the afternoon, did 4 hours,
Oh, wow.
and then went home. Showed up, did a great job. I got all the grunt work. I was still in school, so I was coming in the afternoon, so it wasn't too much like project work I could get, but I did a good job. And
I would assume that like a school environment, you were going to see all the crazy stuff that like you could possibly see.
I have stories.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
I got picked up for a summer internship and was eventually brought on as like a contractor.
Oh, okay, cool.
So I called that time my college. I got to touch everything technology related except for servers.
Yeah.
But you know, route switch, data center, wireless, VoIP, a little bit of security. So it was a great place to get your feet wet and learn different things. And then from there, I did a federal contract, didn't really enjoy that. Had decided at that point, you know, maybe it's time for me to, you know, start specializing. So I had worked on a couple of VoIP projects at the school system. So I'm like, you know, maybe I try my hand at VoIP. So I took a VoIP position with a retirement community.
Okay.
Well, they manage multiple
I
retirement
gotcha. Yeah.
communities throughout the country. Did not like that. Didn't like
More
that at all.
so the company than the technology implementation, or
No, just the work.
oh, okay.
VoIP is very much move, adds, and changes.
Yeah.
We had a couple of cool, like, oh, let's upgrade call manager.
Sure. Yeah.
And I got to do a video rollout. So I actually
Okay.
worked with the on-site IT people to roll out video conferencing units to the executives at the communities and the conference rooms.
Okay.
So that was a cool project.
Were they doing like soft clients or hard clients?
Hard.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
And then from there, I ended up at it's kind of like a managed services provider type thing, company, doing networking again, working in the data center.
Okay.
And yeah,
how is your
been
hearing?
my progression.
How is your hearing?
Good.
Oh, okay. My hearing's horrible. From working in a data center too much. It's just
yeah, it's not too bad.
okay.
It's more cold than anything. We don't talk in there.
Oh, okay. All right.
We're just shouting back and forth. Hey, is it on yet? Like, no, it's not gonna work.
Just all thumbs up or thumbs down. Yeah. So I
slacking each other from our phones.
I hadn't heard of that Cisco program before. So is that something that was unique in the Baltimore area, or is that something that you've heard of other high schools and stuff like that doing? Because I mean, that's pretty cool.
So Cisco, it's the Cisco Networking Academy is the official title. And they have programs in colleges, middle schools, high schools, all through. What Baltimore City did that was pretty unique to that district is so the career and technology program is, you can do AutoCAD, you can do construction, you can do hair, you can do childcare. So you get the best of both, depending on which school you go to. The school I went to, we had both college prep and vocational classes. So no matter which route, you kind of had like a good starting point, and you graduate with a certification.
Oh, okay. So would they when you say graduate with a certification, so like they would push people to get like a CCNA by the time that they graduate from high school, or like?
So when I was in the program, the certification requirement was just the A+.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Now you do get your it was a CCENT, so I'm assuming since Cisco has changed the certifications, it's a CCNA now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's pretty sweet. I wonder if they have that out our way here in Northern Virginia somewhere. Try and force my kids to go after Cisco certs without them knowing. So did you completely like? How did you pick that? Like, that's a pretty unique career path to kind of start down as, a sophomore to
high
be like,
school. Yeah.
Like, no, I think that's going to be like the really cool thing to do.
So I've always loved computers and science and tinkering with things and breaking things and all that good stuff. So I knew whatever I did, it would be computer related. I actually went in under graphic design, and I think it was spring semester of my freshman year. They did like a fair where all of the career specialties put on a presentation. Here's what our program is. Here's the type of jobs you can get. All of that good stuff. And the Cisco class came up, and I'm like, there are people who make the internet work. I want to do that. How does the internet work?
Awesome. Yeah.
So I signed up, and the first year I was just in love. Like, I can't for the life of me remember any of it now, but I could tell you like all the different types of motherboard form factors.
Yeah. I mean,
it was really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome to actually get that type of hands-on in like a structured type of way, because before that, it would seem like the only people that were kind of getting that type of access and opportunity would have been somebody who just like I don't even know. They were kind of geeky from like being 8 years old and had something in the garage somewhere, but it was completely,
Yeah.
unstructured, right? Like not actually moving towards a goal and giving, kids the tools to be able to succeed like that. So
Right.
that's pretty awesome. I do want to get back and talk about the work that you did for the Baltimore public school system because, like I mentioned, I'm sure that as far as kind of like getting baptized by fire, like the
Hmm.
things that you would end up seeing there and running into there, I would assume probably set you up pretty good for the type of stuff that you deal with now, just because the amount of users, the kind of I don't know, multimedia type of stuff that they would have, and then also kind of
Hmm.
just the craziness of giving technology to kids kind of leads towards all sorts
Yeah.
of unexpected consequences, I would guess.
Yes. We had a kid tweet out our Wi-Fi password.
Oh, fantastic. uh,
So all of Twitter. So that
so,
was fun. That was a fun call to get at like 8 o'clock at night.
so is that then at that point it's like we got to change the password on all of the APs and all that type of stuff, or
Hmm.
yeah.
Luckily, we had just moved to a centralized managed system with Aruba.
Oh,
So
okay,
it
yeah,
was literally just going into the controller and changing it. Had that
yeah,
happened a little while before, where some schools have the liberty of buying their own technology,
sure,
particularly charter schools,
yeah,
which was a pain.
yeah,
And then, it wasn't standardized previously, so
mm,
some schools had wireless, some schools didn't. So luckily, the biggest thing with working with a school district is budgeting
mm,
and helping the higher ups understand the investment in technology and how it ties into education,
sure,
which was a battle that our management fought a lot,
mm,
and won. We made in the 5 years I was there, we went from having, computers still running Windows XP to,
mm,
running whatever. I think it was Windows 7 at the time that I left. All of our computers were running Windows 7. Um, we still had some stragglers out there, some stuff that somebody had under their desk that, oh yeah, this still works. It's fine.
like yeah, we still
But
have an
for the
access
most part,
database on Windows 98 and we can't get rid of it.
right.
Yeah.
Um, and going from frame relay when I had first got there
Mm,
to everyone having 100 gigabit internet to
yeah,
the buildings.
sure.
So it was great to see the progression of it.
I would also assume that their kind of like tech refresh schedules probably would be stretched out a bit longer because of
Yeah.
those budget type of constraints. So it's always kind of a bit of a challenge trying to get on the latest stuff, but fighting that constantly.
Hmm. The good thing is, as leadership changed, more people came in who were more tech focused and tech savvy and
Mm,
understood the value of it. So they
sure.
were able to, have that wish list of things
Yeah.
get prioritized a little bit more. And then, of course, in some instances, things don't get prioritized until something happens,
Yep.
which I think is going to be the case um, for Baltimore County schools, who is going through a ransomware attack right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. That's wild. That happened like
Yeah.
what in the past couple weeks?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Last Wednesday, I think. Yeah.
Mm. Hopefully they have backups of stuff that they need.
I hope so.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always crazy that or the medical industry whenever all that stuff happens. It's like, oof, yeah.
Yeah, I saw a tweet where somebody they had taken a picture of like one of the and I don't know what the name of the machines are, but one of the heart monitors that kind of,
Oh yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
know, has
yeah.
the beep and it has like the ransomware thing on it. And I'm like, oh my
It's
God.
probably running some type of like what is it like the Windows based like tablet type of software or something like that they kind of use on
Hmm.
like those different types of appliances and stuff like that aren't necessarily
Yeah,
actually running a real full scale.
a real OS.
Yeah. Mm. So let me see what other things here. So the Aruba stuff is interesting. I don't think I've ever done any Aruba networking stuff. Is that mostly wireless?
They have switches as well.
Oh, okay.
We didn't use their switches. We just used their APs. Their APs,
Mm.
their wireless is top tier.
Oh, okay.
Definitely one of the best products I've worked with. They also have a competitor to Cisco ISE, which is
Oh,
ClearPass.
okay.
Um, we didn't use it, but we did get to demo it.
Yeah.
It's at the time that version of it was very clean and simple to approach,
Okay.
whereas ICE, which is one of my favorite tools, is
Yes, we're gonna
it,
hit on
it can take a while.
that.
It's a lot of layers.
Yeah.
You can be an expert in one part of it and click to the next page and not know anything about it.
Yeah,
So,
I'm actually doing a little bit of demo isn't the right word. Doing some testing with ICE, both from a moving from radius to TACAX, and then also
mhm.
doing some 802.1x device cert authentication. So, having not used ICE before, it's been kind of interesting for me. I did use ACS like way
Way back.
back in the day. Yeah, I don't even remember what version it was, but it was probably at least 10 years ago or something like that. So
hmm
it is kind of interesting to see how they've taken that. And to your point, they've integrated so many different types of technologies and tools with it. It's not just a AAA server anymore. It's a whole bunch of other stuff. So
Right.
yeah. What do you like within that, or what lanes do you like to specialize within ICE?
So 802.1x is a big one, which I got exposure to at Baltimore City Schools. In a nightmare project, we had to turn it on for the entire district in 30 days.
Holy crap.
We broke everything.
What? So were you
We
doing that
broke the entire district.
like for wired and wireless clients? Everything?
Just for wired, it was
Okay.
to meet a mandate from an audit.
Okay.
Um, and at the time, it was one of those situations where we didn't have the budget
Mm,
to do it the ideal way. We also didn't have the time. So we all kind of, our manager, our director came to us and was like, look, this has to get done. And it
mm.
has to get done by the end of December. This is before Thanksgiving, like I think the week of Thanksgiving. I can't push back. We just got to make it work. Um, so we weren't using Cisco gear at the time. So that was
Okay.
fun.
Oof.
So we all kind of, met and talked about the different pieces that we
Yeah.
needed to make this work. And we're kind of like, let's build it and see what
Were you
happens.
already using certificates in the environment?
Nope.
Oh, oof.
Weren't using certificates. There was still a big XP footprint
Okay. Yeah.
out in the district. So we knew we couldn't do XP. So we had to come up with workarounds for that.
Sure.
And then just literally combing through 2,000, 2,500 switches, making sure,
Mm,
all the uplinks are labeled, making sure we've
sure.
identified printers as best we can,
Yeah.
APs. So once we had all of that and organized it in a spreadsheet by school, it was kind of like, all right, 8 a.m., we're doing this school. So we'll push the config out. And then we're just like sitting there waiting. And we're looking at SolarWinds and it's like, oh, this switch is dropping. Oh, these APs just dropped. um, and then working with our field tech team, because they
Yep.
were going out, of course, they're triaging tickets first. We
Now,
were not very popular for the first 3
anything
months
that
of that.
wasn't able to support PKI, were you just gonna do like bypass with like Mac authentication, or
hmm
yeah,
That was the first. So that worked for some
yeah,
things it didn't. Some things we had to put in like a special VLAN that just didn't have any um, with an ACL on it.
yeah,
It was just best. Let's just figure out what we can do to meet the mandate, and then let's go clean it up. So
yeah,
that's what we did. All in all, I think it took like 9 months to get it fully where it wasn't causing. It was functional.
yeah,
Um, we ran into issues with the switches at the time, and our vendor was super as helpful as they could be.
yeah.
This was definitely something new for them on that scale.
Oh wow.
Um, so they sent our SE in. They had other engineers working on it. They
Mm.
developed a special version of the OS for us.
Wow. Holy crap.
They're like, hey, yeah. So we were like beta testing, and everything that could possibly go wrong with 802.1x, I've seen. Like everything. And we ended up in a situation where the switches just weren't capable of running the extra memory load. So we would have switches die in closets, and these closets already aren't in the ideal condition that an IDF should be in. So that's just additional stress and heat. So they were dying. So we were, going replacing switches. We got like external power supplies.
At that point, when you were replacing switches, did you guys end up going with different vendors? Like, was that a forcing function?
When it came time to do the refresh, that was like the number one reason.
Yeah. Like, we're out of here. We're not dealing with this anymore.
We got Cisco switches, and they worked like a dream.
Yeah.
Did what they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was stressful at the time, but in hindsight, it was fun and a lot to learn, and it was really great. And we can touch on this a little bit later, but like team culture and camaraderie was really great, because at that time it was everybody versus the network team.
Yeah. Oh, that built up quite a bit as far as
everyone
dealing with that day to day.
Yeah.
Throwing things.
Everyone rallied around. They were like, we're spitballing ideas. We're like, you know what? Let's try it. It's already broke.
Right. Can't get any worse. So, yeah.
Right.
So you mentioned one of my favorite tools, and I saw that you have a certification in it. And I didn't even know they had certifications, but SolarWinds is something that I've used for a long period of time. Do you still use that where you work now, or was that more so just back then?
I used it in my last position. I brought it in. It wasn't as used as heavily as I would have liked it to have been, but it helped manage configuration and stuff.
Yeah.
So
so the NCM portion of that is awesome. It's really cool to kind of see their progress that they've done. I think I started using them back in like 2007. So to see it grow from pretty much, a souped up what's up gold, that's just doing, pings, and then, kind of moving more closely towards what like Nagios does, right, with your SNMP polling. But now with all the modules that they do for everything, I mean, whether it's monitoring your SAN stuff, their NetFlow stuff is pretty good. I did get their SIM. Their SIM sucked. That wasn't very good. I think that they were like going through a thing where they were just like buying a whole bunch of tools from everybody and seeing what they
to try to build it into the suite.
Exactly. Yeah. See what they could kind of strap to it. And that was not, it was good if you were just like in a strictly Windows environment, but it wasn't very good with like networking devices and then anything like Linux and stuff like that. It didn't play nice.
Gotcha.
But yeah. But besides that, I think, all their stuff is pretty awesome. Still use it now. The NCM stuff, like you mentioned, backing up the configs, being able to do that nightly, and then being able to easily compare configs, between different baselines and stuff like that is awesome. I think it's one of those things that whenever anybody's starting a new environment, I highly recommend that they go and get that, because it will make things a lot easier, especially as stuff grows.
Yeah, definitely. The more it's a lot of time investment up front to get it, functioning and get all your devices in and configured so you get the data out. But once you get that done, the data definitely makes up for that time investment.
Have you you ever?
This video is not sponsored, by the way.
Yeah. No, not sponsored at all by SolarWinds. If they wanted to send some swag, though, I think both of us would gladly take it. I would take it.
Yeah.
Yes. I would take a SolarWinds sweatshirt or a water bottle if anyone out there is watching. You're doing your CCNP studying, and I've seen like you have some study groups that you kind of established. I don't know, what was that? Maybe like 4 or 5 months ago, something like that. Are you still doing that on Facebook, or?
I had to, so the Facebook group is just really a place for, people who are beginners in technology to be able to talk to more expert people.
Gotcha.
I have been shopping around for something other than Facebook to use because I think people are leaving Facebook now. Um,
Are you looking at like
haven't
Discord
found
or
anything
something
yet.
like that?
Yeah, it'll probably be Discord.
Yeah.
I know there are a lot of in the tech community use Discord, so maybe then. That's something will probably take a look at next month. Um, but I also ran a weekly study group, which I had to stop just because work was getting, we were in the swing of some projects, but I would like to pick that back up. And pretty much the way that worked was, I reached out to experts on Twitter, like, hey, like Nick Russo, like, hey, you're like the automation like king. Can you come and talk to us about automation? And he did a a great presentation, and people were able to ask questions and everything. So I definitely want to pick that up next year.
Cool.
And yeah, I enjoy helping people. People help me. And one of my former coworkers at the school system, he used to always say, when you get to that point, reach back and bring somebody else up. And that's how you really, because I used to, oh, thank you. Like he was, whenever he had like free books or he's, saw a cool opportunity, he would, email it to me. And I'm like, oh, thanks. This is like really great. He's like, don't thank me. Just when you get to that place, it's then your turn to reach back and grab somebody else. So I've always loved writing.
Oh, okay.
So I was toying with the idea back in 2016 of like starting a blog. I think that's when like the Instagram influencer culture really like took off. And I'm like, oh, this is like really cool. I can write about some stuff. And then I'm like, no, I'm boring. And so I think I had just was looking on Instagram and I was looking for some networking stuff because I was on Cisco's page and I just happened to click like the network engineer hashtag. And I'm like, oh, cool. There are people on here like, Instagramming switches and stuff. And like people actually care about that. So then I got the idea. I'm like, oh, well, I could just start a tech blog and like share my notes and like projects I'm working on. And that's how CCIE by 30 came to be. And then I got active on Twitter and, found the whole tech community. And at that time, it was mostly just cybersecurity and programming.
Yeah. Yep.
So I'm just like, hey, where are the network engineers? Like, why doesn't anybody know this is a job?
We're a few years late showing up is what it is.
Yeah. It was the network latency.
It's kind of funny just because I didn't really even know like Twitter was there as a resource.
Yeah.
Like, when it comes to interacting and finding, fellow networking people. And I kind of straddle that a little bit because I do some cyber stuff. So kind of trying to like bridge that and meet all these people is awesome because before I was aware of it, the only people that I really knew were people that I worked with. Right? It's like people you interact with, your job, and maybe some people that you meet at college or
conferences.
Yeah. Stuff. Even that, like networking conferences, I know like Cisco Live, but besides that, I don't really know of any like other large scale ones. I don't know if do they show up for RSA? Like I don't even know. I've never been to RSA, so
I've never been to Cisco Live.
Oh, well, neither have I. Oh. I hear it's fun, but
yeah,
maybe someday.
I did do. So I usually would go to the smaller ones, the Cisco Connect, which is just kind of like a 1-day Cisco Live, 1 or 2 days. So those were cool, and I would meet people there. But I would just go to these conferences, and I'm like, where are the women?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I can't be the only. Like, where are they? Or if there were like 1 or 2, in the sessions, they would be like in the back of the room. Like there has to be more people out here, more women, more networking.
You should start going to the cyber conferences too. You should 100%.
Yeah, I've definitely had a growing interest in cybersecurity. it's always kind of been there. I've always been fascinated with, from a defensive side.
Sure. Yeah.
My first manager really built into us that, security needs to be built into
Yep.
everything you do and
Yep.
not bolted on. So I always try to take that kind of like blue team approach to things. And then just, reading about like different, breaches and this whole like ransomware phenomenon, like how can we prevent that from
Right.
happening?
Yep.
So I'm a hard stickler for security.
Yep.
I wave the flag. And, as I've gotten more into working with ISE and firewalls, it's definitely something I see myself, slowly but surely veering into.
Well, we have so many great cyber conferences here in this area, right? We got B-Sides Charm, which is up by you, B-Sides DC, and then B-Sides Nova, right? So there's like 3 in 1 year you can hit, and then we have ShmooCon as well in DC. So, and ShmooCon's like a big one that people come from like all over the country to go to. So they're definitely there. You will actually run into more network engineers there than you would actually think. So there definitely are people that are there with kind of the same mindset that you have, which I share as well. It's like anybody who's building or operating stuff from an IT perspective is on the blue team, whether or not they know it or not. Like, it just is what it is. So it's better to kind of get involved and try and, get as much information as you can, because it's just going to make you, a better, stronger engineer in the long run. And also, help improve whatever it is that you're doing in your clients' environments. So.
Especially as networking, we're literally building the entry and exit points to this data. You have to, and I'm not putting it all, all on networking. Definitely other areas of IT are responsible, but I think, networking it should be their number one priority.
Well, it touches everything, right? I mean, you get into other areas of IT that are very, very important, but they can be kind of isolated and might not interact with other areas of IT. But networking touches everything relies on the networking. So it's really, really, really important to make sure that what you're doing is both operationally stable and, has a security mindset to it, to make sure that it's not your fault when bad stuff happens. So I also saw.
Well, how'd they get in? This person had their password on a Post-it. All right, well, that's not me.
Yes, it wasn't the firewall. Yes. So I saw that you were a Cisco champion as well. So can you explain what that is for people who might not know?
Yep. So the Cisco Champion program is pretty much a group of people who are Cisco engineers who, blog or, tweet or vlog, whatever, about certifications, the products, being a network engineer. It's a program you have to apply to every year. And you get to, we get product demos before they're released to the public. You have this great network of people to, we have like a WebEx Teams channel that we can, all chat with, and you're pretty much just there essentially because you're promoting Cisco, but because you're promoting networking. And, they'll share out our content if it's Cisco related. And so you get to see new technologies that are under NDA until whatever the date is. So it definitely gives you a leg up as a content creator. Because if you're a person who, reviews products, you've had a chance to see the product, play with it a little bit. And then on the day of launch, hey, guess what? Cisco came out with this new thing and I got to play with it. So that's fun. But it's just a great, another group of people to network with, ask questions with.
How was the process as far as applying for it? So if somebody wanted to become part of that, what was that like?
So you pretty much just fill out an application, and you provide links to your social media, to your blog or whatever. You send it off. The Cisco team, reviews it, and when you are accepted, you get an email like, hey, you're a Cisco champion, and then you attend orientation.
Oh,
And they
okay.
just kind of go over like the do's and don'ts. You're not discouraged from, talking about other non-Cisco products.
Yeah.
They're just not going to promote it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool.
Awesome. Awesome. How long have you been doing that for?
2 years now.
Awesome. They give you free demos of stuff. So like they'll ship you like a switch or something like that, or give you access to like virtual stuff.
Access to virtual stuff, and they'll do like a presentation.
Oh, okay.
So before ISE 3.0 was released, we got a presentation on all the new features that were coming. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
And then I don't blog about products, but other people do.
Cool. Just like like sneak pictures of whatever the new thing is that they have all the stickers on so nobody can see it.
Yeah, it's the Cisco secret society.
Yeah. It's a secret handshake or something. I don't know. That's pretty cool. So that kind of leads to another Cisco topic, and that is you working on your CCNP. How long have you been working towards that?
So pretty much since earlier this year.
Okay.
And this leads into another lovely topic that I often get questions about. But so I've been studying on and off seriously for the past 6 months.
Okay. Yeah.
But I've also had to learn stuff for work. So I'm going between CCNP stuff and then ACI.
Yeah.
CCNP and then something for ISE. AWS, which is fun. So my goal was to have it done, this month, so that next year I could focus solely on working towards my CCIE.
Yep.
Which I want to take my first attempt by September. My first attempt at the lab.
Okay.
Fingers crossed I pass. I know that's not a lot of people pass on the first time, but
you never know. Do they still have a written exam that you have to do for this?
No.
No. Okay.
So the exam that I took today would qualify as the written.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's like once you're good with that, then you pretty much can like go ahead and lock in on a date, and then just like move towards that. Okay.
As soon as the testing center opens.
Yeah. And I'm trying to remember back in the day, it was like Triangle Park was one spot in North Carolina where you could do it. Do they have any place up by us that's close?
Nope. They don't even have a Triangle Park place anymore. It's in Texas now.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's like 30 or 45 minutes outside of Dallas.
Okay. And then they probably got something on the West Coast. I would assume probably San Francisco or something like that.
Nope.
Wow. Okay.
Just Texas.
So if you're in the U.S.,
they do have the CCIE mobile labs, but I think they primarily focus on more remote and rural locations.
Okay.
But I do know they do some. They have some locations where it goes over here. So if I see one that's closer in Texas, then that's probably the one I'll shoot for. But as of now, the plan is Texas.
Okay. Man. So the test that you took today, how was it? How did you do? What did you do really good with, I guess, first off? What were you comfortable with?
Yep. So the network assurance and the routing and switching stuff was really good. Where I got hung up at was automation and some SD-WAN stuff. Those were the top two.
Okay.
I definitely could have done better on some of my routing topics, but I don't think those were my weakest areas.
Yeah. So
I'll be reviewing my score report and getting back to it. I booked the next exam for next month. So
awesome. I mean, it's good to do it right when you're still kind of like fresh into it and not put it off too long. And how are the exam report that they give you? Is it pretty specific on areas under those sub areas, or is it just high level, like automation, and doesn't break it down further than that?
It breaks it down, so you'll just get like a percentage of where they don't tell you like you did horrible here. But you can see like the percentage that you're went into your score. So
well, you have a lot of people rooting for you, so I think you're gonna do great next
I
time.
went on Twitter and I'm like, oh, thanks everyone. I'm not depressed. Yeah, definitely didn't get to study as hard as I'm used to.
Sure.
Just because I'm working on projects at work and I have to learn new stuff for that too.
Yep.
So I think that's the number one question I get. How do you balance learning for work versus learning for your personal goals?
Yeah.
Haven't figured it out yet.
I mean, you try your best to work on projects that align with what you're doing cert-wise. That's like and that doesn't work out all the time. So then you're just kind of stuck. But I don't know, 2020 is a crapshoot anyway. So anybody that's trying to do anything this year, I wish them as much luck and success. And, it's just really, really, really difficult. So, but yeah, I think you're going to be set next month when you take it. That's going to be good. And then are you going to end up renting out like lab stuff for the CCIE, or do you already have like a lab set up, or?
I have some switches and stuff. I don't know if I'm gonna do the renting route. I'm kind of leaning towards that just because electric bills.
Yeah. And noise.
Yeah. We have a lab at work.
Yep.
So just really maybe just seeing what needs to be added to that.
Sure.
But it'll likely be me renting. I don't think I'm gonna run a lab at home.
Yeah.
One day. I don't even like have a full office space. So.
Well, I only have in here, I have a Juniper firewall and a Cisco 3750, and both of those sound like airplanes. So
yes,
there is.
Yeah, I have two 3750s, ASA, I think it's 5520.
Okay.
And then an extreme switch.
Those are the purple ones, right?
And yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And a little Meraki switch that I got for doing the training.
Oh. I don't think I've ever messed with those. Are they decent?
It's all GUI based. It's really great for remote offices and
gotcha.
Those kind of branch deployment type situations.
Yeah. Now we actually did get a couple questions from Twitter. So
awesome.
This is like super exciting because nobody ever gives me any questions to ask during these. So this first one, it was somebody who was talking about Cisco publishing some paper that they read talking about duplex and speed. And he was wondering our perspectives on auto negotiation versus statically setting both of those. So I don't know if you have a preference or a comment on that.
Yeah, I approach it situationally. If it's newer gear, I haven't seen any issues with letting it auto negotiate.
Yep.
If it's the same vendor, same thing. I've never seen any issues. But with older gear, I definitely say statically set it because I've seen some weird things where especially older Cisco switches, they'll just like default to half for some unknown reason.
Yep. So that is exactly what I was going. I think I have like almost PTSD from it to the point where I will statically assign everything now just because I've been burnt so much in the past. But you're 100% correct. The new stuff probably works fantastic, but you never know. And then also your other point as far as interacting with other vendors. So if you're using like, Cisco switches, but you're using a different vendors like Blade servers or something like that. I've seen
that happen.
Yeah. I've seen some things where you're expecting it to go 10 gigs and it won't go 10 gigs, or sometimes I've seen it not even come up unless you actually set the like non-auto negotiate command on it. So
I've seen that one with older Palo Alto firewalls going into
okay.
Cisco.
Yeah.
They either don't come up or they come up like at 1 gig or something weird.
Something funky. So I'll just try it static first and you probably won't have any issues, but the technology is getting better. So one day people won't care.
Yeah.
The other question.
It'll be an API that you just click a button on.
Right.
And it'll
be done. Magic. The other question is, without compromising confidentiality, can you tell us a time when something went terribly wrong at work and how you and your team resolved it?
Ooh, I have lots of stories about that. Well, one was the 802.1x thing.
Yep.
That was an ordeal. And then one day we started getting reports of slowness. This was at the school system.
Yep.
And this was the first time I've ever seen this issue. I didn't even know this could be a thing that happened, but we started getting reports of slowness. So we're trying to figure it out. It's slow, both internal and to the internet. It started out like in the headquarters office, and then we started getting reports from schools. We couldn't figure out what exactly it was. It started looking like a loop. So we're like, okay, network loops were a common issue in the schools because people would go buy a little Netgear switch,
plug it in,
plug it into 2 ports. We actually went on one ticket and the guy was like, oh yeah, because I needed 2 gigs of internet. It's like, that's not how it works. So we're like, all right, there's no way a loop from a school got into our headquarters building. So somebody in headquarters must have looped a switch. We isolated it down to a closet. And the way we did that was it was just all hands on deck in the data center.
Yep.
Somebody pulled a cable. We waited a few minutes. Did it get better? No. Somebody pulled a cable, waited a few minutes. Did it get better? No. We isolated it to a closet, or we thought we did, on the 3rd floor. Come to find out it was not that closet. It actually ended up being a switch that was sitting on someone's desk in the basement in the office. And it wasn't a loop. It was actually the SFP had gone bad. Okay. So it was kind of looping the traffic somehow.
Huh.
Never seen that before. The weirdest thing. And it looks like a loop, and the switch never tells you if something wrong. It looks like it's just functioning perfectly well. So, and it was a Cisco switch and a Cisco SFP. It doesn't, BPDU guard doesn't block it. It was really weird.
Huh.
So that was my first time seeing it, and I've seen that happen in 2 other places. And I'm like, oh, check the SFP. And everybody's like, what? And it usually turns out to be it. And then one time when I broke something, I bought a data center down. I was making a change to the Nexus switches. And I didn't know at the time, but there was a bug in the code. And when you ran this command, it would reboot the switch. So the switch rebooted. And everything seemed like it was working. And then all of a sudden, my phone's going off with SolarWinds alerts. So the way Nexus switches worked is the 5Ks and the 6Ks. You have 2 switches, and they connect together with with a total of 4 uplinks. And it makes them appear as one switch to the rest of the network.
Okay.
And you have your FEX switches, which are pretty much just dumb line cards, but in a box that connect back to them. And the 5Ks or 6Ks or the 7Ks all hold the configuration for all of these FEXs. So I made a configuration change on what was known as the peer link, not realizing it was going to drop the switch. So the switch rebooted. And I'm like, all right, everything's coming back up. It seems to be okay. And then I start getting all these alerts. The switches had actually gone into a split brain scenario.
Ooh.
Which, for those of you who don't know, when you have 2 redundant switches that are supposed to be primary and secondary, when they can't see each other, they'll both become active. And you end up basically with a giant broadcast storm in your data center. So I'm like, crap. I wanted to troubleshoot it, but I'm like, you know what? Let me just get the data center up. So I unplugged both of them at the same time, plugged them back in, undid the configuration change I made,
Yeah.
unplugged both switches, plugged them back in, and waited. And those switches take like 15 minutes to come back up. So
And
the
they're
data center
loud.
was down for about 45 minutes.
Yeah.
I get back upstairs and my manager's like, what happened? And I'm like, well, I made this change and the switch rebooted, and that wasn't, expected behavior based on the documentation I read. So I have to do some research to figure out why that happened. And in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna get fired. I'm gonna get fired. So the next day, I had opened the case, and Cisco was able to show that it was a bug, and we needed to upgrade the switches. My manager's like, cool, don't let it happen again. So
you're like, I can't do anything, man. It's a bug. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah. But that was my second job. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna get fired.
Yeah.
I brought down a small hallway or like an office, but not like the whole data center.
Those fixes are awesome, but at the same time, for people who haven't used them before, if you configure them, and you have them, uplinking to both core switches, and you're using VPCs for those connections, if you make a change on one side, you have to make it on the other switch. And if you don't, it goes into an inconsistent state. A whole bunch of bad things can happen. So it's always...
They have a temper tantrum.
They do. Yeah. So it's great technology, but you kind of gotta baby it a little bit.
Yeah.
So
that's where ACI comes in.
Yes. I haven't actually had to deal with that because the stuff that I work with is a little bit more smaller scale, but I hear it's interesting.
It's a beast.
Yeah.
There are some things that don't make sense.
Yeah.
I have a love-hate relationship with it.
Yeah.
It's definitely been a cool tool to learn.
Yeah.
I would say Cisco has some improvements to make.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. When it works well.
Yeah.
When it's not working, it doesn't tell you why. It's just like, nope, not bringing that board up. Figure it out.
Like not today.
I don't feel like working.
So my story is we had some junior folks that we brought onto the network team, and we were trying to get them spun up on network engineering because they actually came over from the help desk. So they were starting to do, learn CCNA type of stuff, and they were, smart folks, just hadn't been exposed to networking, right? So, or very little in a production environment. So they, started to get spun up, and then they got placed on shift, and one of the dudes ends up getting assigned to the weekend shift. So he's going to be there all by himself. We have on-call people. It's not, that big of a deal. And he, I'm trying to think how I want to say this. We end up getting a message that the internet to the building is down. We're like, okay.
Oh, no.
And he's there on shift. But the thing was, it was on a DoD network. And so it was, you have NIPRNet, which is kind of like the DoD's unclassified network. And then that has gateways to the internet. Okay. So we were still able to get to NIPRNet, right? So the unclassified DoD network we were able to get to, we just weren't able to get out to the internet. So the automatic assumption is something upstream with NIPRNet, right? Because we're able to get out, all the links look good. We're able to hit other stuff that's more north from where we're at. And we're like, okay, it's probably some type of outage. All right, we'll just keep an eye on it for a few hours and stuff like that. Not that big of a deal. It was on the weekend. Everything will be, okay. So come back in on Monday and it's still down. And we're like, oh man, that's really, really weird. Okay. So then we start digging into it. And we like reached out to the folks, the DISA folks who manage NIPRNet, and they're like, no, we don't have any issues going on. Internet access is perfectly fine. We're like, okay. We start, looking into our stuff, and I'm like, okay, well, let's see what's changed. So I go and dive.
It's always the first question.
Exactly. Of course, you ask the people that's on shift, what happened, anything else going on over the weekend, any projects that we were implementing, anything like that. Nope. I'm like, okay. I go into ACS and just start looking back through all commands that were done on the Cisco devices, from the time that the outage happened until, now. And end up seeing that the new dude ended up doing a configuration change on the premise switch where he pointed the default route back towards our firewall.
Oh, no.
So, and the reason why this still worked for us being able to get out to like NIPRNet and those other networks was because those particular routes were advertised from them to us via BGP, but they didn't advertise. I'm trying to think. No, it did have a default route, but the static ended up, having the higher priority.
Right.
So, yeah, some of the traffic was able to get out. Everything else, that didn't match those particular BGP routes ended up being pointed back to the firewall. We're like, what the heck? So super easy to fix once I found it. And then we like asked the guy, we're like, man, why did you do that? He's like, oh, I just was practicing my CCNA stuff and I just wanted to try out, some static routes. We're like, oh my goodness, man.
Not on the live network.
Yeah, not on the live network. We're like, dude, we got like so many 3750s and all that type of crap just sitting around here. Don't do it on the live environment. Yeah. So that's a lesson to folks as far as when you want to try stuff out, don't try it out when it's actually
on the live network. Another thing not to do, don't do IP debug all.
Yeah,
I did that on a router and crashed it, so that was fun.
You only have to learn that.
Luckily,
once.
It was just one school.
Yeah, just takes
wasn't
one
the whole,
time, and
wasn't
then you're
the whole
like,
district.
Oh man, you kind of always weary about those debug commands for different services if you aren't sure like how noisy they actually are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I even know some like more specific debug commands, and I'm still super hesitant about.
Oh yeah, most definitely. That or you're worried that you'll forget to turn it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
and it'll just fill up, and then 4 o'clock. Oh, why is the site down?
So, do you have any other things going on that you want to talk about or share with folks?
Not right now. Definitely going to get back to updating the blog.
Okay.
Have some great new content, specifically about this test.
Okay.
So that'll be coming out later this week. And I'm still trying to figure it out how exactly I want to document my CCIE journey. I think it's going to be a mix of videos and blog posts.
Okay. Awesome.
And I've gotten a lot of comments from people asking me to focus not just on the tech side of things, but, saving for it and gathering the materials and the health aspect of it. Yeah. So I think it'll be a whole thing.
Cool. I'm going to put all of your links for your stuff in the description, like underneath the video. So go check out all of her stuff. It is awesome. And keep an eye out for all of her future stuff. You don't live too far away from me. You live up in Baltimore, and we've been talking about food. So what's your favorite food spot up your way?
There are a few, depending on what you want. For crab cakes, definitely Coco's.
Okay.
If you haven't had it, you probably think, I think it's G&M. That's everyone's favorite.
Oh, okay.
No. Coco's for crab cakes.
Is that in Baltimore proper, or is that kind of outside?
It's in Baltimore. It's like right off of Harford Road, out going east. Tacos, Clavel. I think they're still doing takeout right now, but some of the best Mexican food you could
Awesome.
ever taste. Trying to think. Not too into burgers, but there's this great place in Mount Vernon Marketplace. So what that is, it's just basically an old warehouse that they turned into a food hall.
Oh, nice.
It's called Between Two Buns. They have really good burgers. And then
I'm gonna
ramen,
Yelp
me
all
and
of
you.
these later. So
For ramen, me and you noodle. They have one in Mount Vernon and one in Federal Hill.
Okay.
And then outside of that, if I had to pick a place in the harbor, I'd say Blackwall Hitch. They have a couple of restaurants around.
Okay.
Like they have one in VA actually.
Do you know where?
I think it's Alexandria.
Okay, yeah.
I think. But yeah, just I love to eat, so.
Yeah, I do too. So we're gonna find someplace equidistant and eventually meet up at some point.
A lot of great places in DC too.
Yeah, DC is good, and even Southern Maryland there has some good spots too. There's plenty of spots. Alexandria is good too. Yeah, pretty much along the whole way. There's plenty of good spots to eat.
Yeah, if you'll definitely find something you love.
Yeah. Cool. Well, if you don't have anything else, then we can go ahead and wrap it up. But I appreciate you coming on and sharing your wisdom and your history on your journey and all that type of stuff. And I hope that folks find it useful and entertaining, and they reach out and ask questions and follow you and all that good jazz, all the good vibes and all that stuff. So yeah, thanks for coming on.
For having me.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, so that wraps up our chat with Deirra. I'm going to put links for all of her different social media accounts and her blog in the description down below. If you've made it all this way through the video, go ahead and hit that like button before you cut out of here. I got some more labs coming up here in the next week. We're going to do some Cisco CCNA stuff and have a few other videos that are coming out, so keep your eye on the channel. Go have a great week. Go get at it, and we'll talk soon. All right, bye.